This podcast is brought to you by Rising Phoenix alongside the Milano Cortina 2026 Paralympic Winter Games.
I train probably 6 or 7 days a week. I work in a lab right now, and I'm getting my PhD in neuroscience. College racing is the most fun racing anyone will ever experience. You go out there and race with your buddies. People are cheering loud, revving chainsaws on the side of the course, just having an absolute party. And then afterwards, everyone just has a big barbecue in the parking lot.
This episode of What Does It Take is brought to you by P&G, a proud partner of the Paralympic movement. P&G believes in the power of the everyday champions who inspire us all. And we're excited to share the stories of athletes who embodied that spirit. Good afternoon, Rising Phoenix family. As we are going through this series, I'm hoping that you are starting to understand kind of the messaging that I'm trying to get across, or I'm hoping comes across. Like, what does it take to succeed? What does it take to persevere, to fight, to dream, to sacrifice, to win, and to overcome? And I think the next guest that is going to be on the show today is one of the perfect examples of all of that. From her rapid rise in the sport to the way she balances elite competition and neuroscience research. There is so much depth to this one. Here's my conversation with Sydney Peterson on What Does It Take?
Hi, thank you very much for having me. It's nice to meet you all.
It's very nice to meet you as well. Before we begin, I got one question for you, and that is, tell me about you and who is Sydney Peterson?
I grew up skiing, and I started skiing when I was about 5 years old. I'm originally from Minnesota, so very close to Iowa. There it was quite cold, and as a way to enjoy those cold winters, I would bundle up and go outside and cross-country ski. It was always a fun sport. We would go and have hot chocolate, go and have s'mores over campfires. But gradually it turned more competitive and I started racing. And then I joined the high school team and raced with them and then raced in college. And soon enough that led me to Paralympic sport. And now I am a ski racer. And then in conjunction with that, I'm still pursuing academics, and I'm currently working on getting my PhD in neuroscience as well.
Wow. So you're very busy, it sounds like. And we're going to kind of dabble into all those in a little bit. But before we go into that more, is it my understanding that you're actually in Soldier Hollow right now?
Yeah, this is Soldier Hollow. It's where we train a lot, and it's also going to be the host of the 2034 games.
So is that basically like your home court?
Yeah, that's what it's become.
So I'm looking in the background. It's very beautiful. We tried to add a little bit of more snow on the mountains, but we just ran out of time. But what I'm noticing is that I see some people ski past. And when I was younger, my type of skiing that I loved so much was just downhill as fast as I could go. Right? You know, I wanted to feel the wind in my lack of hair. But for you, it's completely different. It's not like that. It is cross-country skiing. Is that correct?
Yeah, so I cross-country ski. We go up and down hills, and so a lot of time our start and finish will be at the exact same spot. And so then we'll have roughly 2,000 feet of elevation gain, say, over the course of 10 to 20 kilometers of a race. And so there will be a lot of hills that we go up and down, and we do that through two different techniques, both skate and classic. One where you keep your skis parallel and it's more like a running motion, and then the other is skating, which is kind of more like ice skating or hockey skating. And so it's quite different than downhill skiing.
When you talk, this was a question I had for later, but I'm going to ask it now just because you talked about it. You talked about elevation going up, potentially 2,000 feet and down. How do you train for that? And is Milano Cortina, have you looked into their elevation? Is it similar to Utah?
I believe the elevation there is very similar to where I live, which is nice because some courses might be set at 7,000 feet, some might be set at sea level. And so it's nice continuity from that perspective. The course profile itself, I think it's a pretty hilly course. I unfortunately missed the test event last year, so I don't know what it looks like. So it'll be exciting to find that out. But I've heard it's pretty challenging, so that'll be fun.
When you first started skiing at the age of 5, was it still cross-country skiing, or was it a different form of skiing?
I've always cross country skied. I've only started now backcountry skiing and downhill skiing in the past 2 years since moving out west. So those modalities are new to me.
What's the difference between cross-country skiing and was it back hill skiing or
Like backcountry skiing or
backcountry?
touring,
Mhm.
you have thicker skis that you put skins on, and then you skin up the mountain, and then you take them off, and then you ski down like um, alpine skiing. And so it's cool because then you get the cardiovascular workout, but then you get up to the top, and then you get the joy of having gravity to do all the work.
So
So it's kind of a combination of both. It's fun.
I'm smiling and laughing right now because you say you have to ski up a mountain.
Yep.
So I'm trying to visualize that. So yes, you have like a skin that goes on the ski, and
Yeah.
that helps you with the grip. And then once you get to the top, the reward is going down, which is a lot easier. Okay. So do you use that as training for cross country at all?
Yeah, I do, except for I'm kind of clumsy and I feel like I've ran into a couple of trees and I have a pretty high risk getting hurt. So I generally save that for end of the season, like March, April, once my races are done, so that injury risk isn't a problem anymore.
Is
But
it
once I get better, then hopefully it'll become more of a training avenue.
is it because you're going too fast?
I just don't have very much coordination. There's a reason I
Mm.
started with endurance sports and not ball sports at a young age.
So let's go back to childhood. I read that you started experiencing symptoms of dystonia at 13. Could you educate me a little bit more about dystonia?
Dystonia is a pretty complex disease, and um, there's a lot of different things that can cause dystonia. And so, I guess what it is to begin with is it's caused by involuntary muscle contractions, and it can be caused by genetic mutations. It can be caused by a stroke. Some people we just don't know what causes it. Um, there's a lot of different possibilities. And so when I was 13, I wasn't. We didn't even know that I had dystonia. I just was having a lot of pain, a lot of spasticity, and these involuntary muscle contractions in my left arm. And I was quite sick. I missed a lot of my 8th grade year of school, almost all of it. And my arm was almost completely devoid of circulation. I couldn't move it at all. Um, and so it was a pretty an abrupt onset. But we didn't know completely what was wrong, which was tough. But then it started to get better. So that was great. But we still didn't know really what was wrong. Um, but then it kind of went into this remission for a couple of years. But then it started getting worse again when I was 17. But then from 17 to 19, it continued to progress. And once I was 19, I went through a series of tests. And at that point, just evolving research, started to know a lot more about the disease and a lot more about the genetic factors that cause the disease. And so I had much more extensive testing done. And that's when we figured out that I have dystonia. And at that point, it was affecting my arm and my leg and my entire left side.
You went from 2000. You went from age 13 to age before you actually got the diagnosis was 19.
Yeah.
So during that period of time, were you so it went into remission, and when it came back, you went back to the doctors. What were they doing? Were they doing like testing differently, or how did they ultimately come up with this is what it is?
Yeah, they just did more tests. And I think also, um, it's an evolving area of research, and we know a lot more now. There's a lot more treatment options and treatment opportunities, thankfully, that help stop the progression of the disease. And so it can be beneficial for some people. So, combination of a lot of things.
So that's 6 years of uncertainty.
Yeah, during that time, I still skied. I also swam and ran. I didn't enjoy those sports as much, but I did them.
They should create a sport in the water called floating. I would like that sport. That sounds fun to me. So soon after your diagnosis, you found para cross country. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So what did it take to go from understanding that you just found para cross country skiing, and then did you reach out to Team USA? Like, how do I become a part of this?
I got classified, and then luckily somehow someone ended up not choosing not to race, and so I got to race that day. And I did well in that race. And from that one race, I qualified for world championships. And then this all happened really fast because this was in December of 2021. And so Beijing was in then March of 2022. And so then because I did well in that world championships, since I was so late to being classified and joining the Paralympic team, the way I actually made it to Beijing was through a bipartite invitation from the IPC rather than like actually getting named to the team.
This is an interesting fact for me. And so I'm going to ask you, have you ever checked your speed? Like, how fast do you think you ski at? Have you ever wondered what that is? Miles per hour?
I've like looked on my GPS watch before going down hills and stuff.
What?
It can get kind of fast. It's
What?
pretty easy to go 45 miles an hour.
Well, no wonder you're running into trees. You're going so fast on skis.
Which on snow isn't that scary, and it's not that bad because if you fall on snow, you just slide. It's fluffy. It's not that bad. But what's really scary is in the summer, we train on roller skis, which don't have brakes, and then you're on the road with cars whizzing by you. And so if you fall going down a hill, I mean, yeah, you have a helmet on, but it's just a bike helmet, and you're wearing shorts and a t-shirt. That hurts really bad. And it's not if you fall, it's when you fall.
Wow. Like, I guess I never would have thought 45 miles an hour on ski. I mean, you're talking about going across country. That kind of blows me away. That's impressive. I don't think I could ski that fast going up and down hills. That's
Well, you're not going that
impossible.
fast up hills, much slower up hills, to clarify.
Well, okay, so I have no arms. Do you think I have what it takes to do what you do?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you would be in the LW57 class for skiing. So these people ski without poles.
Okay.
It's incredibly impressive, in my opinion. There's a Polish man who he has phenomenal technique, impressive strength, and I started a race the other day with him because they had like men and women on the course at the same time, and I could not keep up with him at all. I tried to stay with him. I stayed with him for half a lap of the course, and then he dropped me.
What?
So, absolutely, you could.
I think I'll stick with archery. I mean, for as much as that sounds amazing, I think I'm going to. Let's go into leading influences on your journey. Your parents. Tell me about how they supported you kind of during this time frame of when you were younger and kind of going through that 6 years of uncertainty to kind of leading it up to like the beginning parts of your career.
Yeah, my parents were really helpful throughout all of this. They would always bring me to ski practices, other sports practices, which obviously involves a lot of driving and a lot of just sitting around waiting to pick your kid up. And so incredibly grateful for that. They brought me to countless doctor's appointments for a long time. I was going down to Mayo, and I lived up near the Twin Cities, and so that was a 90-minute drive, and sometimes we were going down there 3 times a week for treatments. And so that added up to a lot of time in the car, which, was necessary, but they obviously didn't have to do that. And so, yeah, they've supported me throughout all of this.
They just wanted to see you successful. They love you, and they wanted to make sure that you were good to go. Tell me about the role of the Minneapolis Ski Club as far as in your journey.
Yeah, that's the ski club that I skied with throughout high school. And so skiing's a little interesting because most sports you just ski with your high school, or you just like compete with your high school team, and then on the off season you're with your club team. But since skiing, you only have one season because of snow. In the winter, you ski with both your high school and then you also race with your club team. But then you can't practice with your high school team outside of that. So you'll do summer and fall practices with a club team. And so a lot of those roller skiing practices happened with them. And that was incredibly beneficial for working on technique in the off season, working on fitness. And they also support you going to junior national qualifying races, which help you qualify for junior nationals and other international competitions and stuff.
So what does it take to make it to the games? I should say that more like your very first Paralympic Games. What do you think that took to get there?
I don't know. I mean, I think it just took a lot of skiing, I guess, if to boil it down to simplicity. Like obviously it's a lot of hard work, but I just like to ski, so it's not that much work.
How many days are you skiing a week?
I train probably 6 or 7 days a week, but some of that's skiing, sometimes it's like running, sometimes it's biking. I don't know. My training plan mostly consists of like whatever friends text me and want to go and do something. So that's probably not as, diligent as most athletes do or should have, but I don't know. It seemed to have worked out.
So I know that you are trying to get a degree, and I don't want to tell everybody exactly what it is. How about you tell us what you're going to college for or where you work?
I work in a lab right now, and I'm getting my PhD in neuroscience. And so I'm specifically looking at drug repurposing for rare genetic diseases. And like that's what the lab that I'm in studies.
And you are training 5 to 6 days a week in cross country. You're a beast. This is how do you find time to manage all of that?
I don't know. I just don't like to sit still.
You're motivated. You're motivated. So think about a moment for you that felt like a major failure or setback. And what is your one belief or assumption you had to unlearn from that experience to move forward? So in my opinion, like the setback would have been going 6 years of trying to understand what's going on with your body, and then all of a sudden finding out like you kind of have an answer. Was that a relief for you that you finally figured it out? Or do you think that was kind of like a setback at that point? And then how did you move on from that mentally?
I mean, at first it was nice to have an answer because then I finally, had a label of what was going on and what was wrong. But also in a lot of ways, it was pretty tough because at first I was told that there was nothing I could do to change the course of the progression. And, the disease was continuing to progress and get worse. And so that was pretty tough to hear, especially at 19 yeah, it's just going to get worse. You're going to continue to progressively lose more movement. That really sucks. But I'm fortunately in a much better place now. And so I had pretty extensive brain surgery 2 years ago. That's luckily reversed a lot of that. So that's good.
So the brain operation was in 2023, but before that, just something that I kind of want to bring up is in 2021, you get classified essentially to be on the Paralympic cross country ski team, and then the next year, 2022, is Beijing, and you go out there, and it was kind of like would you consider a breakout year because you did amazing there considering that you just got classified not even a year before that?
I had been classified literally 2.5 months before that because I was classified in December. So I don't even know if that counts as, a year or whatnot. It's just the date.
So you literally stunned the world by getting classified, and then very short time later, here you are in Beijing taking names. So what do you think was your motivation to excel so quickly like that, to literally go from getting classified and bam, welcome to Team USA?
In a way, it was like everything had changed very suddenly, but also in a way, kind of nothing had changed because I had skied. I'd still skied my whole life. I'd raced forever. So I knew how to race. I knew how to ski. It's not like I just started skiing. And even with that, it's not like I just started skiing with my disability. I'd had that since I was 13. Obviously, it had changed and morphed throughout the years, but it was just now I had access to the Paralympics and I hadn't had the access before. So it was like a new platform that I now had access to, but I had always just been around. I just didn't have it available.
Did you know about the Paralympics for some time, or was it kind of around the when you first kind of really got into it that it kind of popped up for you?
I had known it existed. I had heard about Paralympics in when Rio in 2016 had happened, and I'd seen clips of it, watched some pieces of it. So I knew it was around. I just never thought oh, this is something that I'm eligible for or that I would want to do. But then I was skiing in college at the time. My college coach encouraged me to continue to reach out and ask about the possibility.
Is it possible to get scholarships to go to college for skiing?
Yeah, you can.
Oh. And so you have a ski team and you go against other colleges, or is there a
Yeah.
national championship every college shows up to?
Yeah, skiing is an NCAA sport. And so I skied on our school's NCAA team. They only have a Division I circuit. And so it's I guess a legitimate thing. It's really fun. In my opinion, college racing is the most fun racing anyone will ever experience. And if anyone ever has the opportunity to do it, I would highly recommend. You go out there and race with your buddies. People are cheering loud, revving chainsaws on the side of the course, just having an absolute party. And then afterwards, everyone just has a big barbecue in the parking lot. You don't get to experience that anywhere else. It's the most fun racing anyone will ever have.
Chainsaws.
It's a bunch of college kids. What do you expect?
Does that give you adrenaline to go faster? The chainsaws? I guess that would work.
Yeah, it's a bunch of college kids that go to party schools and they just know how to have a good time.
Would you say in college that you raced against everybody, or was there a Paralympic class?
No, I raced against the able-bodied people. I am one of my teammates on the Paralympic team. He also raced in college, but we're the only two people that have ever skied with disabilities. But it didn't really matter. I was just racing with one pole and other people are racing with two poles. And then occasionally someone would break a pole in a race and complain about having a bad race. And I would look at them and say, like, no, you should not be complaining about this.
I can already, I can already hear you saying that. Another question I have for you is, in Beijing, you won gold in the 2.5 kilometer mixed relay, a silver in the 15 kilometer classical standing, and then a bronze in the 1.5. Why do they call it kilometers when in the United States, just out of curiosity, it's not kilometers?
Because the rest of the world has common sense and uses the metric system, and we feel the need to use miles.
So what would you say 15 kilometers is in miles ish?
It's probably 9 miles. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Wow. So the you have the 1.5, which is a sprint. So is that
Uh-huh.
considered like a mile? 1.5?
It's about a mile. Yeah. So that's pretty short. That's like a 3-minute race.
So just so I understand, you in Beijing, you got the silver in the 15 and then a bronze in the sprint, but they're totally separate. Are there athletes or do you train specifically for the long haul and then you make it into like the sprints, or do you train for sprints and then make it into like the 15Ks?
No, skiing's a little different. It's not like track, or swimming or something where you train more specifically for one race. Uh, Athletes are pretty well versed in all disciplines. Some people might gravitate more towards sprinting or more towards distance. I would say I generally gravitate more towards distance races. Um, but everyone will compete in pretty much everything. You might sit out a race to like conserve energy for another race, but everyone races in everything. And so you're not like solely a sprinter and you're not solely a distance skier.
Do the coaches have any input with that?
Yeah, they'll help you decide if it's smart and like a tactical reason to sit out races. So like in Milan, there's I think 7 races over the course of 10 days, and it's just not feasible to do all of them and do well in all of them. So I'll probably sit out of a couple of them, and I'll probably do 6 of them or something,
So
or 5 of them.
So you potentially have a shot at 5, would you say maybe 5 medals ish?
That's pretty ambitious, but sure.
I mean, you're an ambitious person. You accelerated extremely fast. You are doing so much stuff, amazing stuff with your life. In fact, I would like to talk about your PhD for just a little bit more, in neuroscience. What made you decide to choose to go into neuroscience?
Well, I've always liked math and science, and then in undergrad, I majored in neuroscience. And then also in undergrad, I had the opportunity to work in a couple of different research labs, and I also did an AmeriCorps like service fellowship, and that was more patient contact associated with people with neurodevelopmental disorders. And I guess with all those different experiences combined, that really sparked my interest in research. And so one of the summers I did a research internship at the University of Utah and worked in a lab there looking at rare genetic diseases and drug repurposing for them. I guess I'm specifically looking at how drugs that are already FDA approved for one condition could possibly have additional properties to help other conditions. And so a lot of if something is FDA approved, that means it's already met set safety standards, and we already maybe know something about its mechanism of action and how it works in the body. And then there's other diseases out there that we know very little about, and because the patient population is so low, typical drug development timelines would never allow for a therapeutic to be developed for them. And so if we do a drug screen, then we could see if of this major drug library that has thousands of drugs in it, if something in that could potentially be used off-label to help the patients that have a different disease. And so it's cool because it bypasses typical timelines and it's much more cost effective, if that makes sense.
That's amazing. I could tell just by the way you were talking about that you're very passionate about that because you are helping lots of people. Whether you know that or not, there's a lot of people out there that need help, and the fact that you are dedicating your life to neuroscience and trying to help all these people who need it while you're trying to be and represent the United States of America, I would say that you are probably um, one of the coolest people I've ever met because first of all, I've never met anybody who is trying to get their PhD in neuroscience, but I almost feel like you like helping people more than cross country skiing. Would you say that would be an accurate statement?
I don't know. I think I like them both. I don't think I could do school well if I didn't have the outlet of skiing. And I also don't think I could ski well if I didn't have school as an outlet. And so I think they build off of each other quite nicely.
It's kind of like your brain is going, I need this to help over here. And I can actually relate to that a little bit because one of the things that helped me get through Paris was kind of having a little distraction off the side that I could between rounds go to and reset my brain. So for those little brief moments, I wasn't thinking about the competition and using that as a reset. That's pretty cool. Let's talk about Italy. Have you ever been to Italy?
Yeah, last year we had our world championships in Toblach, and so I don't know, I think that was a couple hours away from where we'll be, but it was really pretty there. It's good racing.
Are you looking forward to having your family there? Because if I am understanding this correctly, in Beijing it was COVID year, so families weren't necessarily allowed to be on premise or on site to cheer you on. So will they be with you in Milano Cortina?
Yeah, I believe my parents will come over, which will be cool. It'll be nice to just have normal games. Obviously, I don't know what that is like, but you know, being able to go outside the village, see people, um, be a normal human being sounds really cool. So, looking forward to that.
Comparing, because this will be um, what you call normal games for you. Let's talk about Beijing just for a second. What part of Beijing surprised you, and what part of Beijing you're kind of like, okay, this is when I got to get into competition mode.
Honestly, it was all very new. Um, it was interesting to have. It was really nice and interesting to have all this like support. Had tons of coaches that were helping you with waxing skis, helping you do things that before I've just always done on my own. And Beijing was also really weird because you had to have like we got COVID tested every single day. It will be really nice to have a solid experience where the focus is ski racing and just having fun.
In Italy, you're not going to have to deal with that, and you're going to have your family there. I think it's going to be a much more peaceful time for you. You're going to love it. Your family going, are they going to wear shirts with your picture on them?
They better not. If
Oh,
they do, I'm never
should.
looking at them.
Oh, they should definitely do that.
They better not.
When it comes to cross country skiing in Italy in the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Paralympics, are you doing laps? Like essentially laps, right? So there's a place for your family to stand or sit to watch every time you come by.
Yeah, so like the sprint, that's shorter, so that'll just be one lap. But then our 10K race, that'll be 4 2.5K laps. Our 20K race, that'll be 5 4K laps. Um, the 12.5K race, that'll be 2.5K laps. So, and also the course kind of like winds around, I think. So generally there's a midpoint that you can kind of see a couple times. Before in Beijing, the women did slightly shorter courses than the men. And now they've pushed for gender equality. And so now we do the same distances. So the women have gone up in distance to make it equal. So instead of doing a 15K for the distance race, we'll now be doing a 20K. And so there's some subtle changes, but for the most part, it's pretty consistent.
What about the games are you excited most for?
I don't know. I think the courses look pretty cool. They're on the regular World Cup. There's the Tour de Ski that happens every year. There's a couple like very famous courses that go through Val di Fiemme where we'll be racing. And that's where the Tour de Ski ends every single year. And so it's kind of cool to get to race there. I guess we had a test event there last year, but I missed that because of school. And so I'm excited to get to race there. And the Italian Alps are really pretty. Yeah, it'll be cool to be in a sweet location.
Is there anything you're looking forward to food-wise?
The food will also be good. Good pizza, good pasta.
Did you go to the opening ceremonies in Beijing?
I was able to go in Beijing, which is really neat. I won't be able to go this year because I race the next day, and it's 5 hours away. But it is what it is. I don't know. It was cool to be able to go once.
Did you know that the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Paralympics, this is the 50th year anniversary of the Winter Paralympic Games?
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, that's neat. You should have done a winter sports.
What winter sport do you think I should try?
I don't know.
I don't either. I don't mind cold weather, but I mean, I don't know about skiing for 20 kilometers up and down mountains. I guess I would prefer to watch that. Sydney, as we are learning more and more about you, I guess, I want to know is what does it take to actually compete at the games?
I think to compete at the games, it takes accumulation of a lot of practice within the sport. And then also, it also takes a lot of support from other people. I'm grateful to have a lot of people who have helped me get this far. And then ultimately, though, once the gun goes off and you're, in the race, it's not really that much different than any other race. It's just ski racing. And so that part's the same. And then you just go out and ski as fast as you can and have a good time.
Do you think there's ever a part when you're competing where like time slows down for you, or does it kind of feel like it takes a while to go the distance that you're racing that day?
No, it's definitely interesting because you'll vividly remember parts of the race, but then also kind of not remember parts of the race. And coaches will be on the side of the lines, giving you splits, and sometimes you'll hear them, and sometimes you just won't hear what they're saying at all, even though they're screaming them at you and you should be able to hear it. So parts of your mind definitely go blank, but then also you're quite in tune with what's happening. And so it's an interesting dichotomy.
So I got 2 more questions for you. And then I guess I was going to ask you, since you're joining me today at Soldier Hollow, are you going to go practice afterwards? Is that your plan?
I skied before this.
You skied before, so no 2-a-days for you today.
I would, but normally we do ski twice in a day, but I just got back from Europe after a month of racing, and so still trying to recover a bit from that.
Yeah, the jet lag, is that pretty bad right now?
Yeah, I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning.
Oh no.
I'm good right now, but come 4 p.m., I'll be toast.
Okay. The question I have for you is what has your sport given you, and where would you be without it?
Skiing's given me a lot, from a lot of different angles. Uh, it's given me some of my deepest friendships in life. A lot of my teammates have become a lot of my closest friends. Uh, a number of my teammates from college actually, after college, moved out to Utah, and now we all live out here together and see each other every day and go out and do stuff, which is awesome, and I love that. They're the people that I call whenever I need something, and if I didn't ski, I wouldn't have that. Skiing is also, dealing with dystonia, given me an avenue to try and mediate that and get better from it. I think it's acted as a fun form of physical therapy. It's kept me in shape, and so that's been really good. It's also just like led me outside and on a lot of fun adventures, and so yeah, really glad to have it.
Sounds like it's really important for you to have.
I think just like enjoying the process of doing things and incrementally getting better at something.
I think you answered that question perfectly. So we are wrapping up here. And what I like to do, Sydney, is play a game with you because I know you're a competitor. And so we've been asking all the athletes to do the same. What I got is a couple questions that I'm going to ask you, and the rules are pretty simple. I just want you to answer them kind of as quickly as possible. You don't overthink the answers. If you want to make up an answer just to get through it, that's fine too. But we call the game Zero Chill. Is it something that you would want to participate in?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Are you ready? Drum roll. Are you ready?
Yep.
This is Zero Chill with Sydney Peterson. One part of Italy you're excited to see.
Venice.
One Italian food you can't wait to eat.
Pizza.
My favorite. Espresso or cappuccino?
Cappuccino.
Spaghetti, linguine, or tortellini?
Tortellini.
One thing viewers will love about para cross-country skiing.
Watching the sprints.
The toughest thing about your training.
Actually doing strength.
If you get a chance to watch one of the other Paralympic winter sports, which one are you choosing?
One of the downhill gravity sports.
Oh, they go so fast. One thing you do to relax.
Go outside and run.
You can't say studying for your PhD in neuroscience. Your hype song before a race.
I don't listen to music before I race.
Okay. Your pre-race ritual or superstition.
Generally wear longer socks underneath my race suit.
Ah, that's a good one. One word. What do the Winter Paralympics mean to you?
They're snowy.
And finally, what does it take to be your best?
Having fun.
Those are all great. Those are all great answers. It's interesting to me because when you said pizza, my mouth started watering because Italy has some amazing pizza.
Apparently there's supposed to be a pizza place next to the finish line.
What? Do you know the name of it?
No.
So that's what you're planning. Are you going to eat a piece of pizza once you win?
Maybe. Sure.
Listen, Sydney, it's been awesome to have you. Thank you for your time. I know you are jet lagged and you still got in a workout today and went skiing. So I'm greatly appreciative of you being on the show with me today. And I hope that you go to Milano Cortina and have the most fun you've ever had. Don't be too embarrassed by your family that are probably going to be wearing shirts with your faces on them. But I want to again say thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you as well. And you've been listening to What Does It Take? A podcast brought to you by Rising Phoenix alongside the Milano Cortina 2026 Paralympic Winter Games. If you like what you've listened to and want to know more about Rising Phoenix, check out the details in our show notes. This is a Harder Than You Think production.
This episode is about the confidence and power that comes from being comfortable in your own skin, presented in partnership with Venus.